Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out new episodes of the show every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. If you missed an episode or want to get more information about the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com. SoupX, the Startup Expo, North America's premier startup conference, is March 6th and 7th, 2017, in sunny Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Affordably priced, SoupX is a 2-day international conference featuring workshops, panels, speeches, a $50,000 startup competition, and over 100 exhibitors. For more information, go to sup-x.org. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Erik Caso. He's the CEO at Younity. Erik, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you back on the show. We talked months ago about kind of your platform, Younity, and you guys you've added a bunch of new stuff, and I thought, we should cover that again. I kind of like going back and having past guests on the show and kind of cover what they've been up to the last little while. I think it's interesting to me and it's interesting to the listener. But maybe before we kind of get into Younity and the new stuff, maybe let's start off with getting to know you a little bit better and cover where you grew up.
Sure. So I kind of grew up all over the place. I was born in Germany, lived in the UK, moved to the US when I was young.
Okay.
Was in the US for a little bit, moved back to Europe, and lived in France for several years. And for the vast majority of my life, certainly my adult life, I've lived in California.
Okay. So you went to the California Polytech State. Tell me about that and what you kind of took there.
Sure. Cal Poly is an interesting school in the sense that it's a very small school. It had the undesirable reputation as most test-taking school when I was there, which was certainly not fun when you're a college student. But their motto is learn by doing. So virtually all of the professors were former industry execs or professionals in some way. That really sort of brought, I think, real world experience into the classroom, which
Sure.
was always very enjoyable because you sort of balanced out the academic with, more tangible real world concepts and application. So Cal Poly is a great university to go to. It's in a wonderful part of California. And there's this real strong sense of don't just talk about things, but do things.
Got you. No, I think that's great, right? And in a lot of ways, I wish more schools were kind of like that. I find a lot of programs can be like in theory, and then you get out in the real world.
Academics certainly has that reputation of everything is on paper, and of course things don't translate from paper to the real world perfectly, and certainly not in entrepreneurship. And when you're creating a company from scratch, there's really no guidebook that makes it easy. Even if you've done it over and over again. First company I started, certainly ran into all kinds of challenges and things that you had to learn and figure out. And, you do it a second or a third time. And, even if you're encountering the exact same problems, the solutions are almost universally different. So there's, certainly things you learn along the way that make you more prepared, but there's nothing that you could sort of read that's just make sure that you have the answers whenever those circumstances arise.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So you've kind of had quite an impressive career. You've worked at some big companies, and you've worked at companies that were acquired by bigger companies. And so I'm curious to know, obviously, before you founded your own company, you worked at some big name companies. What made you decide to kind of leave the corporate kind of world and found Younity?
I would say in my case specifically, starting a company really gives you the ability to test yourself and to really, put your conviction into application, right? I mean, a lot of times when you work in another company, you pour yourself into it and you have ideas or you have things that you believe can make a difference. And for a lot of really good reasons, the company is focused on other things and you can't go do them. So, I think starting companies or businesses can be a lot of different things to different people. In my case, it was I wanted to go solve problems, and this let me do that. It let me go see if I could figure out how to solve problems. And that's really what I like doing. It's the only reason I sort of get excited to go, and work with everyone I work with here or advise other companies or things like that. It's really about connecting with what everyone's trying to solve, and then seeing if you guys can all collectively figure it out.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So for people that don't know, what exactly is Younity and why did you decide to start it?
Sure. So Younity, in its most simple form, lets you access all of the things you have, your music, photos, videos, and documents, from any device you have, regardless of where they're stored. So most people, certainly me, I mean, this company was essentially born out of necessity. I started this company because I had this problem,
Sure.
which, quite frankly, I think is one of the best ways to go and start a company. Solve something you care about.
Sure.
And in my case, like a lot of people, when I was at home, I used a big desktop computer. It's got a lot of horsepower and storage. It's got a big screen. In the office, I use my laptop, and on the street, I use my phone. And I constantly had to deal with content being scattered about different devices. Every time you use a device, something gets stuck or associated with that device. And it's really this change that we've seen since smartphones were introduced. Before the smartphone era, computing was mostly a productivity exercise, right? You would go to the computer to go do something like write a document or an email.
Totally.
But it was very task centric. And the one thing that smartphones have done is make computing ubiquitous. People do it all day, every day, for every single reason. And we've seen the number of devices per person grow incredibly over the last several years. By some estimates, the average person has 7 connected devices. Some other estimates have it at 8, 9, or 10.
Sure.
But suffice it to say that people have a lot of devices, and they're using them continuously in different contexts. So, for example, if you're walking down the street and want to find a restaurant, you don't grab a laptop, you grab a phone.
Totally.
But if you're going to go edit some video, you don't even want a laptop. You want the big screen and the horsepower.
Totally.
So, devices, the reason people have all these devices is that we're computing all the time, and one device is not perfect for all situations that you're in. So, like everyone else, I had this problem to where my content was stuck on a device that I didn't have, and it constantly affected the things I was doing or my productivity. And the logical thing to do is we'll just go and get unlimited cloud storage, which I went and finally, I finally broke down and paid for it. I went and spent tons of money on online storage.
Yep.
Only to realize that online storage doesn't care about the media that you have.
Totally.
Right? If you put an iTunes catalog in online storage, it doesn't know what that is. It sees a database, files, and folders.
Yep.
And like everyone else, I don't browse my music by files and folders. I browse music by artist or genre or playlist. I browse my photos not by knowing what img_2517.jpg is.
Yeah.
I look at things like facial recognition tags to find the person, or I go to a photo album.
Yep.
So, while cloud storage works fantastically well for documents and PDFs and things like that, it simply was not designed to unify our media libraries, all of which we have so much content in that we curate them. We organize them in things like iTunes or in Adobe Lightroom. And that's really because over 90% of all the content that people have is music, photos, and videos.
Mm-hmm.
So it became clear that the problem is that there really wasn't a solution in the market that said people have many devices and they have content, especially media, across those. So how do you let them easily access it? And that was really our starting point. Starting point was, okay, well, how can you fix a computer so that it doesn't just know about itself, but it really knows about all the other devices that you have? And that's in light of the fact that you may have a Mac at home, but a Windows computer for work.
Sure.
And you might have an iPad tablet, but then an Android phone.
Yep.
So, the starting point was we need to fix this one part of computing, and we identified that as the file system, the part of the OS that tracks files. And we figured that if we could create a new type of file system, it could span all of these devices, and you could go to one app, Younity, across all of them and see all of the content as if it was on that device. So that's how we got to where we are today, which was a very, very long road.
Sure. And I think, like, for people that don't actually build software, like, you guys have had to build software that works, like, obviously for Android, for iOS, for Windows, OS X, the web. Like that's a lot of different kind of talent and different personalities and types of people, right? That's not an easy task to do by any means.
Yeah, it is. You're absolutely right. It is not easy, and quite frankly, I do not recommend doing that very often. It is. It sounds challenging. In practice, it's incredibly challenging. It's not easy to build cross-platform software like that because it takes the team that you have and spreads them very thin.
Sure.
When you're a startup and you're living on investor capital, obviously you can only hire so many people, and the more tiers to your platform that you have, obviously the more you have to spread those people around. So it's very, very difficult. We've built an enormous amount of technology. It's something we're really proud of, but it's also something that we hope the difficult days, quickly get behind us.
Sure. Well, and you guys have two offices in different states, which also adds to the challenge.
You're right. Yeah, it's being co-located is something. I think the last time I was on your show, I said,
yeah,
avoid it at all costs.
Yep, I remember that.
I've absolutely, if anything, I feel that even more strongly since the last time we talked. It is co-locating your company is not a good idea. It becomes increasingly difficult. I think we're a much bigger company from the last time I talked to you, and
sure.
It just does not get any easier. Unless I suppose you hit some, future thresholds where you're so big that they're just standalone businesses in a sense. But it is hard tech and made more difficult by having offices in different places.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing that I'm curious about, building kind of something that's cross-platform and cross-device and cross a bunch of different kind of screen sizes and OSs, is keeping the user experience similar, but also trying to manage what you need to do on those different kind of OSs, right? Is a huge challenge for people that have never done this stuff. Even for people that have done this stuff, it's a challenge.
Yeah, you're right. And you bring up something that's a topic often, especially on mobile, which is, if we back up and we don't think in terms of the platforms like Windows or Mac or mobile,
sure.
With iOS and Android, we obviously want people to use our product and be able to just move between devices and have instant familiarity from a user interface.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, there are these nuances, more so on mobile, to where Android users expect certain type of user experience
Totally.
and interaction, and iOS users expect something different. So there's always that consideration of, well, we want things to be similar across platform, but things work differently on Android than they work on iOS. And I think it's hard to sort of always find where that line is to say, what, yeah, they are different, but in this case we want to have them be a little bit more similar, or no, what, these need to be different because the users on those platforms are going to understand how it works better if we do it that way.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So let's maybe dive a little bit deeper into Younity and exactly how does it work. So you walk me through kind of how the whole thing kind of works. You gave kind of a quick overview, but just for people that don't know what Younity is, give them a walkthrough of kind of how it works.
Sure. So setting up Younity is pretty straightforward. You'd go to our website, which is www.getunity.com. And you would download our software. So you create an account. It gives you a download to put on each device. You would install that, let's say, on your laptop and on your desktop. Of course, you would go to the App Store and you would put it on your phone. But the first thing Younity does when you put it onto a computer is it indexes the hard drive, right? So basically, it finds the files that you have, and it then begins building metadata about those files. So, for example, with your music, it would go and find out, okay, well, what's the name of the song, who's the artist, the album, all those types of things. And ultimately, when it's done scanning, indexing the hard drive, it's aware of all the music, photos, videos, and documents on each computer that you have. And it does this without you having to tell it where the content is. So if you don't know where your content is, and this is actually, as we talk about our newest software release, which is our desktop software, a big thing I encountered, it's going to find all of this content for you. and then organize it into one big visual menu, right? So if I have it on my laptop and on my desktop, the Unity user interface on either of those computers and my phone is going to show one browser of all of this content. I can look at my music, my photos, my videos, and my files. Within my music, I'm going to see all the music that are on my computers and on my wife's computers. And she has a different iTunes account. We regularly, even though all of these purchases are coming from the same bank account, her iTunes account is separate from mine. So I can't get the music, for example, on my phone if she bought it, different things like that, because it's associated with this different computer where it downloaded it. I don't connect to that computer, nor is my iCloud account the same as hers.
Sure.
So, all of these little sort of stumbling blocks that I think, people grumble about often, Unity sort of cuts through all of those and says, this is all of the music, here's all the videos, and you can browse it in one unified view. So if there's playlists on her computer, I'll see them. If there's playlists on mine, I'll see them. But the really cool thing that Unity does is it discovers all of this content for you. In some cases, maybe you know about your content, or maybe you put a bunch of music into iTunes. But a lot of us have, the old USB hard drive laying around that's got a bunch of music that we used to love, maybe from college or things like that. And you never get around to putting it on the computer, that you use all the time, or importing it into iTunes. Unity also finds this stuff because it basically discovers everything on your computer and then lets you automatically organizes it. So the iTunes music is going to be in there with all of the non-iTunes music. Your movies are going to be separated from your home videos, and we'll do things like discover content you created with specific devices like a GoPro. So all of this is a simple visual menu for you to find all of your content and then quickly access it or share it or do things like that.
No, that's great. I think that makes, well, I've had a similar problem, obviously, and I was like you. I've tried, or you pay for, Dropbox, and you pay for Google Drive, and you pay for both because they both do certain things well, and you have to wait for them to sync. And I think like, especially for non-technical people, like for technical people, it's a nightmare. For non-technical people, it's just, they're not going to do it, right? Like, they're not going to manage this stuff themselves. It's just too time consuming, doesn't really make sense. Like you said, you lose files. And so you guys are solving like a real problem with this stuff, right? And so
yeah,
I'm curious then to talk a little bit more, maybe like, let's talk about kind of the new desktop software and kind of what is it and what exactly does it do and how is it the same or different than the apps?
Sure. So before this release of our desktop application, Unity, when you installed it on your computer, you didn't actually use it. It served content to the phone.
Okay.
So if you wanted to access your content, you did it from your phone or your tablet.
Got you.
So, for example, in my case, I have my wife and I across, all the devices, we have 5 computers, 3 Mac computers and 2 Windows computers. And so those computers would stream content to my phone or her phone or my tablet or things like that. But you couldn't sit down at the computer and actually see anything or use the software. And that's what we've changed and what we've introduced. The Unity desktop application, just like our mobile apps, now lets you see all of the content, not just on the computer that you're sitting in front of, but in one UI, you'll see that stuff and all of the other files and media on all the devices. So the big change really is you can now use Unity in more places, that being your Windows or your Mac computer.
Got you. Okay. So let's dive into a little bit of the features, because you kind of briefly touched on them, and you kind of dived into the iTunes stuff, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But you touched on a couple things with photos, and I know in the past I've had kind of friends where they can't get their photos off their iPhone or something, and they get a new phone or their phone dies or something, and they lose photos of their kids that weren't anywhere else, right? And some people set up iCloud, some people don't. But I think like just having the ability to kind of sync your photos, especially when they're of your kids or family or important events in your life, I think that's super important, and you kind of roughly touched on that, but I do want to dive a bit deeper into, you mentioned support for Lightroom, and do you want to maybe cover photo syncing a little bit better? Because I think that's really important to people.
Well, I would probably point out that syncing, or a lot of what you're describing, I'd call backup, is not currently a feature in Unity.
Okay,
So,
yeah, okay, that's fair.
backup is something that is, obviously really important, and we're always very cautious to, when people say, hey, but this now gives me access to my stuff, it's kind of like backup. I say, no, it's not. Backup is a security product, right? Backup
Right,
is
fair.
is is something to where once we put it off site, if my house burns down, I've still got all the family photos and videos and all that kind of stuff. So Unity, I would say, is in that kind of context, not your product of choice yet.
Okay.
I think next year what we'll see is us move towards that direction as we integrate with online storage and products like that. So you'll see Unity maybe get closer to that. But right now, what Unity is really about is discovery and access.
Okay.
And I think the first one is probably the most salient feature to talk about because, I said a moment ago something that I kind of encountered when using testing Unity's desktop software is this realization that we create a lot of content, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say that like in a flippant way where it's like, oh yeah, I shoot a lot of photos, I shoot a lot of video, but really people create lots and lots of content. And one of the things that I realized is that I have no idea where it is.
Sure.
So, my wife and I, we have two little girls, and I'm sure like all parents, and for the most part, non-parents, we shoot video all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I later realized we have about 1,500 videos of things, vacations and birthday parties and going to the beach and all kinds of stuff like that. And, I shoot some of these, my wife does. We shoot them with smartphones sometimes. We shoot them with point and shoot cameras sometimes. We always carry a GoPro with us because they're great little rugged waterproof cameras.
Sure.
So we shoot them with that. And then, of course, I've got, a DSLR, which I shoot the really, important stuff with. So all of this video has been shot with a variety of different devices. And sometimes, my wife puts it when she shoots it on her laptop. I always put it on the iMac, but some of it is on my laptop. But none of it is in like a known directory. It's basically lost on these computers. It's like just throwing things into the attic.
Yeah.
And, we didn't organize it at all. And one of the things that I think is really remarkable about Unity is you don't have to know where your stuff is. You don't have to point it at special folders or say, I need you to find my home videos. Unity is going to find all of this stuff across all of your computers and show it to you. And that really blew me away because technically Unity has always done this. It did it before our desktop software, but there's something about a big screen to where all of a sudden I see all of these videos. I mean, we shoot these videos because we think that these are important moments. And, certainly they are, right? But
Sure.
I'd never, ever looked at any of these videos, largely because I don't know where the hell they are. I mean, they're tiny little files that are scattered all about different directories. They're not all in one place. And even if they were all in one place, you look in Finder or in Windows Explorer, and it's like a little tiny file name that doesn't make any sense. And then, like this just micro-sized thumbnail that is, like it's so small that you can't see anything. So, one of the things that I think is really exciting about Unity is that it discovers everything for you, no matter where you stashed it or whether you know about it or not, and quickly brings this, into this beautiful menu for you to go and then find things. And I spent hours just watching videos of my kids that I completely forgotten about. My kids started seeing me do it, and they come over, and one will be, I want to pick a video of her sister, and they go back and forth and are constantly now looking at all the videos of themselves that up until this point, were sort of metaphorically collecting dust, right? I mean, they're just sitting there doing nothing.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it makes sense too when you use stuff kind of like a GoPro or other kind of or devices that are specific to one thing and do one thing really well that you have to plug in to sync. And I think like something like that, just being able to access that content, you're right. It kind of just gets lost in a folder. You think you're going to sort it at some point, but you never do, right? And then who knows, right? It could just kind of get lost in time. So I think that makes a lot of sense that you guys are bringing this stuff kind of back to life, for lack of a better term, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's things that that I just were completely ignoring. Now I get to see, and I wasn't ignoring them because I didn't care about them. I just literally I couldn't find them. I didn't know where any of this stuff is, and it's when you find great features like that by design Unity is supposed to do that, but when you really start using it, it starts revealing all the things that you do next. So launching the software and seeing the uptake of it, which has been tremendous. I mean, it's the amount of usage that our users have now with this software versus mobile is vastly greater, right? I mean, it's shot up, by order of magnitude. So, what we're seeing is more engagement from our users telling us, hey, now that I found all this stuff, here are the next things that I really want, which are exciting.
No, that totally makes sense. So we kind of covered that you guys don't sync, and that was my bad calling it that. But people must give you kind of the privacy kind of conversation. So how do you guys kind of handle privacy, and what kind of content do you have access to or not access to? Kind of walk us through the privacy side of this thing.
Sure. So from a privacy standpoint and a security standpoint, I mean, Unity is a pretty robust solution. We don't have anything, right? I mean, it's the short way of describing it. We don't have any files because nothing gets uploaded. We don't have storage servers. We don't have your metadata. So, from the standpoint of what Unity is aware of, at least as a company, it's virtually nothing. I mean, we of course, like all companies, want to know what our users do the most, right? So we collect analytics on users, like are they watching video, or do users, listen to music, or how long do they use the product? And this is all aggregated, anonymous stuff that's really just about basic things like, how users use the product that we can direct our development efforts. But by and large, I mean, Unity has virtually no information about users at all. So from a privacy and security standpoint, Unity is a great solution. And I think a lot of users care about that. I think there's always sort of this towing the line between, I really wish I could be private, but it's hard to be private. So I guess I'll just, throw in the towel, right?
Yep.
Finally start using Google Photos, even though I know that they're looking at all my photos to give me ads. So, things like that are pretty common. I think outside of the US, it's a bigger concern. I don't know about in Canada, certainly in the EU, privacy is a much, much bigger concern for people. But from that standpoint, when we look at how we made Unity work, we started with just the content on your devices, because Unity can be, what we call a personal cloud. It can build an actual cloud, just like using public cloud services like Dropbox, for example. So we could build it out of your devices. It doesn't, instead of all of your stuff being on our servers in our data center, we can turn your computers into arguably an even higher performance personal cloud, because it's not shared with a whole bunch of people, right?
Sure.
When I access a movie off my iMac from my phone, it's not like Netflix where everyone gets home from work and it comes to a grinding halt because they're all, accessing Netflix. I'm the only one accessing it.
Sure.
So, from that standpoint, we started with the content people have on their devices. And as we've had more and more usage, we get a lot of requests. Like, people really want us to integrate our software onto NAS devices for network attached storage. So that's on the short list of things that we're now, considering, as well as, surprisingly, online storage. People want to make sure that if a computer is turned off, like a laptop in a backpack, you can still get the content from it. Well, look, with a basic way Unity works, if that computer is off, we can't get anything from it, right?
Sure.
But if someone wants to turn on cloud storage to where we would take all the content from those computers and put them into the cloud, well, we can make that work. So, we've been, talking with storage companies and looking at, how do we make this work in a way that our users want? Because we've seen a lot of companies sort of plug into the existing online storage services. Yeah. It's not a lot of value there, right? I mean, if connecting to the Dropbox account you have, if all you have is 10 gigabytes of stuff in there, it's not that interesting.
Yeah.
You don't need Unity to get the stuff out of your Dropbox account, right?
Fair. Yep.
So however, managing all of the content that you have and making sure all of it is stored somewhere, so that you don't have to lift a finger, and there's no folder by folder or things like that. That's something that we think is pretty interesting, and trying to figure out how do you get consumers to care about online storage, because I think we all know the numbers for people that pay for consumer online storage are really, really, really low. So now, and it's not because it's not a good service. It's because they haven't yet found value, in our opinion. And we think we could actually be a big benefit to the storage industry, making those products and services work better.
Yeah, like I 100% agree, and it's kind of to my point earlier. Like I said, like I pay for Dropbox and I pay for Google Drive, and I would put myself in that kind of minority category. Like I spend a huge amount of time pushing big files there, where, to be honest, like a lot of the reason I pay for that stuff is because I do some video stuff, and it just running the Mac, MacBook Pro, like the storage just doesn't cut it, right? No matter what you do, and plugging external hard drives in, and then I have a Windows desktop, and so just for video, it's kind of a nightmare. Never mind all the other platforms and file types and whatnot, right? So I think you're absolutely right that unless you're kind of super nerdy and kind of on top of that, and I would put myself in that, it's still a nightmare for like me, and I've kind of struggled with it. But like somebody like my parents or my mother, like she would have no idea how to do some of this stuff, right? And so I think like for you guys to be able to sync content between all their devices, because I think a lot of people don't even understand that like a file's on this computer and another file's on that computer, and like why can't they get it on a third device, right? Some people I found just don't even understand like how come that just doesn't happen, right? Especially if they're the same OSs.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we realized when we started the company is that look, the best people to solve a lot of these problems, of course, are the operating system makers, right? Yep. Microsoft and Apple and so forth. But it's hard to sort of explain in some cases that the real problem is that consumer behavior has changed a lot so quickly, right? 7-8 years, that it's completely outpaced, what these companies have sort of seen on the horizon for what's coming. No one really, think about it, like 10 years ago, computing was a very, very different proposition.
Totally.
And, actually it's funny, I was using Younity, right? There's all these videos, and I saw videos of this trip that me and a bunch of my buddies made. I think to Northern California, to some lake, and we're on this boat, and I'm shooting video, and I could see this from the mirror of the boat, right? With what I think is a Treo smartphone.
Okay. I'm
like, oh my God, that thing has a camera, and I didn't realize that thing even shot video. And of course, it was horrible quality, right? It was all granular, pixelated, and it looked terrible. But it's funny because that was like 8-9 years ago, probably 9 years ago. It was right before the first iPhone came out.
Yeah.
And which seems like an eternity, but it's really not that long ago that we went from these crude devices that a lot of people suggested would never get massive adoption.
Yep.
To total ubiquitous consumption of these devices and the content that's changing. And quite frankly, the operating system vendors have simply not kept pace. Yep. Right? They still build devices as if you use one computer.
Totally.
And you look every year when a new operating system comes out, it's amazing with all the great new shiny features that are in it. But the one thing that we're continuously dismayed by is that it's still built with this idea that it's the only computer you have.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the cloud is not yet been designed. Cloud storage has not been designed around this idea that I don't have a storage problem. No one has a storage problem.
Sure.
Right? And when you get down to it, the problem is access.
Yeah, totally.
Everyone has plenty of storage. No one stops computing when you run out of storage.
Yeah.
You buy more storage, right?
Yep.
So, and yet the problem is continuously looked at as if storage is the issue when it's not. This idea that you can't get content from point A to point B easily.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I totally agree with you. It's an interesting problem, and you're right. Like that, a lot of people would think that, you're right, OSs and hardware and software manufacturers would solve this. But I'm curious though, how how do you kind of see the future of Unity? Because you have all these kind of platforms now. I think the only thing that you could potentially add is in browser. Is that something you guys want to do eventually? Have you been asked that? Do you even care about adding a browser
No,
version?
that's a great question. Actually, the desktop app that we have built is actually a browser-based app.
Oh,
So
very cool.
you run it natively. It's in a native window.
Sure.
But yeah, we think browser-based access is an awesome feature, and something that really, I mean, especially the engineering team here is chomping at the bit for us to get out. We have to refactor a few things with some of the tech to make it work as well as it should.
Sure.
But that is in our near-term plans that the browser gets in there. There's other platforms that that ultimately a lot of our recent work has sort of paved the way for. Things like Apple TV apps or Roku apps. Really, what we see Unity as is if we were to sort of achieve an amazing dream, Unity is the way that you see and browse and access your content.
Sure.
Right? We don't want to be a storage company. We don't want to be a photo editing company. We don't want to do a lot of things. What we want to do is stitch together the different places and the different screens that we access content from, so you don't think about it, right? You shouldn't have to think about, can I access something here or there, right? You shouldn't have to, beforehand know that you want to. Right now, if you know that you're going to need something and you plan ahead, you're pretty much taken care of.
Sure.
But how do you make it to where you sort of think like if you have your car with you and your keys, you can get in it and go somewhere.
Sure.
But Uber really made it to where it didn't matter if that was the case, right? I can go to anywhere where Uber operates, grab my phone, and I have everything. And in that sense, bringing that type of simplicity, and the availability of being able to solve that problem continuously for access to your content is really what we hope to achieve. So that means that you could go across any of your screens, get your content, but I could be at your house,
sure,
and across any of your screens get my content, so that all of the content we have is it's always universally available to us.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the main reason I kind of asked that is because obviously, like I mentioned, I have a MacBook Pro and a Windows desktop, but I also use a Chromebook all the time. And so just having access to, stuff in the browser sometimes is really useful for me on a selfish front. And then, I have too many devices to name, but, it's interesting that you guys are thinking of and considering moving into kind of lesser of the mainstream devices like the Roku and the Apple TV. I'm not saying they're not popular, but I think those are kind of second or third kind of purchases after like a laptop or tablet, right? And I'm not saying they're not bad because I have both of those, but I think that's very cool that you're moving into these kind of other platforms as well in the future, or at least considering moving to them.
Yeah, I mean, if we could wave the magic wand, we'd be doing them right now.
Sure.
But when you're building a startup, you're it's always difficult to sort of figure out when do you do these things. And so from our standpoint, those devices increase consumption of your own content.
Sure.
The more that you can browse it the way that you want, the more you're going to. Right.
Sure.
So, and we see that, from our own users who use Unity a whole lot, and keep telling us, wow, what if it did this one thing, it would be great. And most of the time that one thing is a really fantastic idea. So, I'm regularly, up in the mountains snowboarding or something like that. I've got something like 40 snowboarding movies on my home computer. We always want to watch them. And, we had not fully integrated this concept that streaming it from my phone to my TV should be able to intelligently change the resolution, right? When I stream an HD movie to my phone, it doesn't need to be the same size as a file for my flat screen at my house, because my phone is tiny, right? But there are times then that I fling it from my phone to the TV. And, this recent concept that we came up with, SmartStream, to where we have, a good way of looking at it is intelligent default streaming, to where we notice, okay, well, here's the original content, here's the device you're streaming it to, here's the network that you're on. How should we deliver this content to you?
Okay, interesting.
So, what it'll do is say, hey, this is an iPhone, right? It should look fantastic on that phone. Let's have it be, HD quality for the phone. But then if I'm going to change screens, we should be able to change resolution.
Sure.
So, things like that we get because people are streaming content a whole lot when they're doing all kinds of things, and then sending it to a TV and saying, hey, it could look a lot better. It doesn't look that great on my TV. So, a lot of this stuff, especially, on this topic of, Roku's and Apple TVs and whatnot, it is as people use your software more and more, they're pointing you in the direction of all the things that make it, that will make it to where they're going to keep using it more and more and more.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So we're kind of coming to the end of the show. So let's maybe close the show with covering cost. You have a free version and you have a premium version. What do you get with the free version and what do you get with the premium version?
So the free version of Younity lets you use Younity in a pretty unlimited way on the same network, right? So let's say you're at home, or you're at work, but your computer and your phone, for example, are on the same network.
Sure.
Or if you're using our desktop software, it's just installed on that computer. It's completely free to use it. You don't have to pay for it. But what we found is that that hit a large group of people, right? About 70% of the usage. Sure. is people that are sort of in these categories of being on the same network as their computer, or just using a local device. So the premium version focuses on the features that we found that just became much more advanced. When you're really using Younity a lot more, which of course is the only time we really want to try and get people to pay. So premium Younity lets you access content from computers on different networks. So we broker all of the different connection and networking types to make sure that you never have to lift a finger. You don't have to configure your firewall or router at home. You don't have to open ports or make P2P work. And if, let's say, you're at work and the corporate firewall is locked down, it doesn't let your phone talk to your computer via P2P. We have a secure relay that will connect you to your computer over SSL. And we make sure everything continues to work without you having to do anything. So that, for example, is a premium feature that's in the premium version. Also, being able to download files for offline access, or having what we call Smart Stream, which is what I was describing a minute ago with those intelligent defaults that say, okay, this is the right quality for the phone, but you can change it to be something else if you want it to. So that's what you get when you upgrade to premium. We're adding premium features all the time. We've also, the pricing for premium is I guess you call it introductory pricing. Sure. For the next month or two. So we just launched premium a couple of months ago, and probably until sometime in January, we're going to increase the pricing. So right now it's $3 a month. It's $30 a year, or $36 for a lifetime license. So a lifetime means you just buy it once, you own it forever, you get all of the upgrades. You never have to pay for it again. Next year, those prices are going to go up a bit. We still think we're going to be the most affordable solution of its kind in the market, by a lot, actually.
Yeah, that's cheap, actually.
For example, next year when we increase prices, it'll probably go from $3 a month to $5 a month, from $30 a year to probably $50. So it won't change a whole lot. But mostly right now we're trying to figure out, do people like paying for Younity? Is it something they're willing to pay for? And, we're kind of shocked by, how much people sort of responded to it. I mean, we've had really, really great paid conversions. We get really good feedback on our pricing. So far we're really happy with the way that's turning out. But like everything else, we got to keep making it better and better. And we think that with the pricing increases next year are going to come a whole bunch of features that really increase the usage of Younity a lot more beyond what it is today.
Sure.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're actually doing a discount just for your listeners. to get a discount off the lifetime. So even though it's only $36, I think there's a coupon just for you guys.
Yeah, there was, and I'll post it in the show notes as well. But if you type in "building the future," you get 20% off. So that's something that's extremely nice of you guys to offer the listeners of the show. And I think it makes a lot of sense to do the lifetime plan for most people, right? And I'm actually impressed that you guys did the lifetime plan. And what was the reasoning behind kind of deciding to offer that for a limited time?
Well, we built a system because we don't have your content, right? We made it very efficient. So our users cost us money, but they don't cost us it's not like Dropbox, right? It's where every single month that I have content in Dropbox, it's like the gas pump. It's just constantly increasing the costs, right? So in our case, we're a very efficient system. Some people want to dip their toe in the water, and $3 a month is a really fair price point for them to do that. We hope that we build software people really like and want to gravitate towards lifetime, and we just found this to be the right price. It's a fair, I think good price for people. And the feedback has been, we're surprised by how many lifetimes versus $3 a month plans we're selling. And I mean, I think, if you use the product, it's obviously a much better deal. It's the price of 1 year forever. You get all the upgrades and, every feature that we ever make. So it's a good deal. And, at this stage of monetization, like I said, we've had premium out there for, I think, about 2 months, maybe a little bit over 2 months. And, for the most part, you start charging and you're trying to see if you even understand what people care about or what they think. It's really testing the waters. And sometimes it's, a very difficult thing to get right, but we're happy that it's going pretty well.
Sure. No, that's great. And just to kind of reiterate that you're offering a 20% deal on the lifetime membership if you use the promo code or coupon code Building the Future. And so if people want to kind of get more information, try out Younity, where can they go and find you guys online?
Best place is our website at www.getunity.com. Younity is a little tricky. It's Younity. But the website will tell you all about sort of how it works, let you download. You can try it for free. And if you end up purchasing it, make sure you use the Building the Future coupon code.
Perfect. Well, Erik, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you and kind of seeing where you guys take Younity in 2017 and beyond.
Great. Thanks so much, Kevin. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you again.
You too, man. All right. You have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening. The music for the show was done by Electric Mantra. You can check them out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.